I'm agnostic. I grew up in a Christian family for 18 years and went to college and studied neuroscience.
Okay.
And during that time, I became agnostic. And one of the things I did was I had so many conflicting ideas between what I was learning in science and what I was learning in church, and I couldn't bring the two together. There was just a lot of contradictions and things like that. And it actually tormented me more than brought me any comfort. And I know you mentioned that happiness isn't the ultimate thing, it's pleasing God and stuff, and I get that. But I ultimately went on a journey where I said, okay, I'm just going to objectively look at things and say, if any new information is presented to me that betters my understanding about the current world, and it is a better understanding than my current belief system, and I have nothing to disprove it, then I will go with the better understanding. And over 2 years of just not taking anything that was awesome, that must have been God, and just going, oh, that must have been coincidence, because that's most objectively a better answer. Random things happen, we know this. So going off that direction, I ultimately ended up just going, I don't think I can be Christian anymore. I don't believe in this anymore.
Okay, can you give me an idea of why? What piece of evidence has caused you to say, Christianity's false?
There's just a lot of stuff. It's so for instance, I don't know, you mentioned Big Bang and stuff like that. Definitely think it's true. Can I have photos? Go look it up. But I'm serious. But the thing with all of that is you might say it's true, another Christian might say it's not. Do you believe the Earth's 4.5 billion years old? Or do you believe it's 5,000 years old? Because if you say it's 5,000, now I'm really skeptical of your opinion, and you understand why?
I'm absolutely convinced the universe is at least 58 years old.
Yeah.
Good answer.
At least.
Okay.
Great answer.
I think it's 14.5 billion.
Yeah, I think the better evidence is that it's 14.5 billion years old, but I don't know what that has to do with Christianity or causing you to doubt. Why would that?
Well, unfortunately, lots of people that used to be Christians left their faith because they've been introduced to science in college, which somehow make them doubt there's a God. I don't know why that is, because you cannot use science to disprove God. Science is a study of process involving the study of the physical world by using the scientific method. To me, whenever I study science, it increased my faith. Why? I see order and design of the things he made, like how the universe is fine-tuned for life. In my personal favorite, DNA, which scientists call the instruction book for life. That is a powerful statement. Let's continue with the video.
Because you brought up a lot of points, and I've seen other arguments, though, before that will argue for why the Earth is 5,000 years old, or why the...
Okay, but how old the Earth is has nothing really to do with whether or not Christianity is true, because you can interpret the text either.
So do you believe every story in the Bible is true then, like Noah's Ark and things like that? Like,
Sure.
you believe everything in the Bible is true, no matter what, all of it?
Yes, if it's properly interpreted, though.
So that's where I would just disagree, because I don't believe... for instance, there's a lot of stories in the Bible that I've come to think of okay, this is a parable or a story or a life lesson, but it's not necessarily a true event, and did it actually happen?
Sure, yeah, that's
right?
true, yeah. See, look, when it says Jesus is the door, I don't think he has a doorknob and hinges. We have, there's all sorts of different literature in the Bible, and not all of it is to be interpreted literally, obviously.
Really?
Yeah, you don't interpret poetry literally.
So not everything in the Bible is meant to be taken literally?
No, of course not.
Do you think everyone in this room would agree with you?
I would hope so. I mean,
I would hope so too.
When it says Jesus is the door, right, you don't think he has hinges. When Jesus says, I am the shepherd and you are the sheep, he's not talking about the fact that we're literally shepherds and sheep.
So you don't think that a story like Noah's Ark is just like a folk tale type thing that was passed through oral tradition throughout time?
Well, just about every culture has a flood story.
Exactly.
Okay. Why?
It's like a very time-telling thing. It's like a creation story.
Maybe because there was a great flood.
A creation story.
That's a possibility, right?
Well,
look, you don't have to believe in Noah's Ark to be a Christian.
Correct. I got to believe in this guy named Jesus Christ and rising from the dead.
Yeah.
Which then, going back to my science thing, is I don't believe that's possible unless I believe he's God, right?
Hold on. Why is it not possible that Jesus could rise from the dead?
Because it's not ever been proven.
By what? How would you prove that?
Give me one other example of it ever happening.
If I could give you one other example, what would be the import of Jesus' resurrection? I mean, if people were popping up from the dead all over the place.
But it doesn't make me believe it anymore.
Well, nothing makes you believe anything. You've got to make your own choices.
Exactly. So
Right.
I'm just saying like that I ended up going more towards science, ended up being more agnostic. I don't deny that a possible higher being could have ever created everything. I don't know. I don't know what caused the Big Bang.
But if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian?
Yeah, but I don't think you could ever prove it to me. Like, I don't think this talk proved it to me.
What do you mean by prove?
Like, factual, scientific evidence, definitive answers. 2 + 2 = 4.
Okay, but that's not the kind of proof that we have for historical events. 2 + 2 = 4. It's not a mathematical equation.
You can kind of make it a mathematical equation.
Like how? How could you prove George Washington by an equation?
Can't really do that, but for instance, you can prove the Earth is roughly 4.5 billion years old through material carbon dating, things like that. You know it from like, if you studied chemistry and you take atoms and you know the rate of decay from those atoms, which is a nature of law, it's going to be true 10 million years from now, just like it was 10 million
Okay, but you see what
before.
you're doing? You're making a whole bunch of philosophical assumptions right there that you can't prove. You're assuming everything in the past is uniform, and you're assuming everything in the future will be uniform. Now, I agree with you, it probably
Like the
will.
laws of nature, like gravity?
Yeah.
9.8 meters per second squared.
Yeah,
down.
but
So
why?
you think that would change?
Well, it could change. I don't think it will, but it could.
How would it change, though? Unless
Well,
like an asteroid blew off a huge mass of the Earth, it's not
Well,
going to change.
no. Where do laws come from?
Laws come from proven evidence over time that
No, the laws themselves, where do they come from? Where do the laws of nature come from?
laws in nature come from men who have definitively done the same experiments with the scientific method and proven.
No, I don't mean us discovering the laws of nature.
Right.
The laws themselves, the force of gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. Why are they there, and why are they so persistent and consistent?
I don't know.
Well, see, I'm saying that's the product of a mind. Laws come from lawgivers. And the reason why the laws of nature are so consistent and precise is because this universe was put together and fine-tuned and sustained by a mind. And that's why we can do science. We can't do science if the laws of nature changed every 10 minutes.
That's true.
So I'm saying to get behind all this, there's a mind behind the universe. And that's why science makes sense.
Do you think that it could make sense even without there being a mind behind the universe? Because I think
Going back to C.S. Lewis's quote that I had up here earlier, let me give you the way John Lennox put it, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah.
John Lennox is a brilliant British, or actually Irish, mathematician and philosopher, teaches at Oxford. He's debated Richard Dawkins several times. And what he says to his colleagues who are atheists, he says, how do you do science? And they start talking about their apparatus, and he goes, no, I don't mean science out here, I mean science here. He said, they say with my mind, they start to say mind, and then they stop themselves and they say, you mean with my brain? Because they don't believe they have a mind, they're materialists. And he says, yes, tell me where your brain came from. And the atheistic scientists will say, well, my brain is the product of random forces that didn't have its end in mind. And Lennox will say, and you trust it? Why would you trust anything you think if your brain wasn't designed?
I don't trust everything I think.
How do you know you shouldn't trust certain things you think? Because you have a brain that was designed and you can discern what are accurate facts from falsehoods.
I mean, I don't know. I did a neuroscience degree. There's a lot of things we could go down with that, but I want to spare everyone's time.
All right, well, thank you.
But last thing,
Yeah.
and it's just simple yes or no, and then I'm going to move on. But I would challenge anyone, like, if you're a Christian, you really have much affirmation in your faith, would you be willing to take 2 years where you don't put yourself maybe in an echo chamber or confirmation bias type scenarios where you're reaffirming your faith constantly, like if I going to church or saying that was by God?
Well, no, hold on.
No, I'm serious.
There's a pastor who did that. He said he's going to be an atheist for a year, and now he's an atheist. Of course, if you shut everything out of Christianity, if Christianity's true and you shut out the Holy Spirit, yeah, you're going to become very hardened. Your heart's going to get hard. So why would you ever recommend somebody does that? Now, I agree with you.
What if it was
that
the
we
truth?
ought to be
It's
open.
the same question then.
We ought to be open to reading, not to starve ourselves from God, but we ought to be reading atheists. I read atheists. The problem is I find atheists don't read the stuff we do. That's why every time I debate an atheist, with the exception of my friend Jeffrey Lauder, they never read anything and they just get up there and they complain about how God is running the universe. Well, that's not an argument against God.
So reading the Bible for 18 years and then taking 2 years to just do other things, like there wasn't any balance there that seemed more favorable towards Christianity?
I don't know if I thought, but let's talk later, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Because we got a long, hang out.
Whoever this person is, science has obviously become his God. He looked to science to answer everything, which is foolish. Science is a wonderful branch of knowledge, but it's also very limited. He was raised a Christian, but he was never taught how to study the Bible properly. I know Christianity is the truth because the evidence is Jesus Christ is reliable and he also rise from the dead. With that being said, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.